Trump saved TikTok after he's the one who initially wanted to ban it. We are going to talk today about that. We're also going to talk about a couple of influencers that I think perfectly exemplify what TikTok is, what our culture is becoming with online social media, and a little bit of the tenor of how things are going in terms of people being online chronically and not being able to live a real life. I'm Sal Sante. Wow, that was good. I'm Sal Sante. This is the We the Patriots podcast. Let's get right into it. So first and foremost today, I just want to get this out there. We the Patriots is going to be simplifying a little bit, at least in my eyes. We're going to be getting rid of the website. I'm not going to need a store for a little bit. I know it's kind of, it's not making me any money, so why have it anymore? And on top of that, it's a lot to manage. So I'm going to trim it down. We're not going to be doing any sort of like shorts and trying to get all famous on TikTok or anything. Just going to keep putting out good shows, good content in terms of podcast. I think is a good podcast. You guys can let me know in the description how we've been doing. We'll go there. I think I'm going to do a little bit more writing, possibly putting everything onto a Substack. We'll start that for free, make sure that everybody's kind of interested in it, and then we'll go from there. But in terms of, oversaturating and thinking you guys are going to pay a bunch of money, I don't want any of that. I just want you guys to get engaged, enjoy the show. Let me know what you want to see. So let's get right into the show today. Let's talk about TikTok. TikTok has been banned, and President Trump is now President Trump once again. What does that mean? Well, Trump seems to be turning this into a PR stunt. He says he's going to try to extend the window for TikTok 90 days. I don't know really what that even means. Why went through this whole process in the first place. Now, here's why I'm not a fan of TikTok. Number one, you can't recognize the damage it's doing to young minds and really just people in general in terms of affecting their attention spans or the inability to function outside of an app. If you're not seeing that, then maybe you're part of the problem. Sorry to say it. Another thing is outside of TikTok, everybody's copied TikTok in terms of social media. You have Facebook has Reels, Instagram has Reels. Sorry for my hair, by the way. It's going all nuts. And you have YouTube. YouTube has Shorts. So every single one of these apps basically has TikTok inside of it. And people are unwilling to utilize their platform, being either Facebook or YouTube. And I can't comprehend is why it's so important that we maintain this app that is clearly against America's best interests. Now, people who don't have an issue with giving away all of our data to a foreign power, if you don't see any issue with that, then I can't imagine that you're all that American. And I say that sincerely. If you don't care about the best interest of the country, if you think that anytime something's going to be banned, it's a bad thing or it's against free speech, I don't know what to tell you. If you really think that's the issue, if it comes to free speech, people want to stop. What you'll see a lot, or at least what I'm seeing, a lot of people are saying you want to stop the videos coming out of Gaza or coming out of Ukraine. No, if you want to go find those videos, you go find those videos. I don't think that they should be thrust upon a young audience who doesn't understand what they're looking at. One of the biggest issues, well, talk about TikTok or probably more so like Instagram. There's like a lot of death. There's a lot of really terrible things that you could see, car crashes, people getting murdered, in terms of the wars, seeing straight up just people killing each other. And not that doesn't have a place in media. It absolutely does. If you talk about what happened in Vietnam and pictures that were floating around the United States, it was one of the biggest reasons why the Vietnam War was shut down. It was because of the bad PR that was coming out of Vietnam. As an aside to that, though, do those graphic images, videos, do they need to be thrust upon young kids? And in my opinion, really kind of ruining their sense of what humanity is? In my opinion, no. It really has no place in our society. And we've gotten to a point here where, again, you could have a feed and your algorithm could be feeding you just death upon death upon death. To me, that's pretty horrifying. Forget about the fact that there's tons of other issues, I would say, with content that floats around on social media, whether you're talking about examples might be sexism, racism, maybe going against certain sexual orientations. Don't know the proper terminology when I'm trying to be all encompassing there, but that is bad too. And to not acknowledge that as just a given when it comes to social media and a platform that's going to quite obviously get a better reaction, or a bigger reaction, I should say, out of controversial content would be, again, the sort of sexism, racism, homophobia. You have to understand that that's what these apps are made for, right? It's just like any sort of news organization knows that any information that could be controversial, or, you know, I think, what was the old saying? Anything with blood is going to sell. I know that I'm butchering the hell out of that, but essentially saying that, like, if you have the opportunity to talk about war, talk about massive amounts of death, killing, that story's going to sell a heck of a lot better than the story about the girl with the lemonade stand who made enough money to put herself through college. And that's sad, but it's a reality. Understanding that reality is kind of important, I think, to understand the TikTok situation. So now where we're at, it's been officially banned, allegedly, across the United States. If you held onto the app, allegedly, it's not banned right now, but you can't download the app. And what people are resorting to is going and getting an app that is even more overtly Chinese. It is a product of the CCP, and that is the app. I believe the name is Red Note. Could be wrong. It seems like it's an allusion to Mao's Little Red Book. If that's the case, and you're an American, you don't see a problem with that? I'm sorry, but you are a major part of the problems that we're having in America here. Again, just because something's getting banned doesn't mean it's a bad thing. In my opinion, ban on TikTok, fantastic. Are you getting rid of those other platforms? Absolutely not. I already mentioned that you have Reels on both Facebook and Instagram. You have Shorts on YouTube. Video style on Twitter, I believe, is a vertical format, so it's very similar. All this stuff could be true, but getting rid of an app that is designed to feed information to a foreign power that is not our adversary, I think is really a good idea. And for Trump to come out and say he wants to save TikTok, again, let's go allude to back in 2024. He signed an executive, forget back in 2020, he signed an executive order basically coming out and banning TikTok. And now he is the one who's going to be the face of turning TikTok to the American people and try to be the savior. I'm sorry, it's just absolutely fucking ridiculous. I'm sorry. I think the app that, the note that everybody got had TikTok. I don't use it, so I don't know. But the note that everybody got said, we are hoping, or something along the lines, paraphrasing here, we're hoping that President Trump can solve this issue. And it was basically a giant ad for Trump. I can't help but think cynically in this situation that it is just a massive PR stunt for Trump to get more popularity. And if that's the case, my God, people, let's see what's in front of our eyes. This is a ploy, and I can't understand why any American, especially the President of the United States, wants to push for an overtly Chinese app. All right, so let's talk about, and I want to keep this episode pretty short and sweet. I'm fucking tired. I just got back in from not really just got back in. I took a nice nap, but 24-hour shift, shoveling and plowing. I'm done with this shit, man. I want to go back to sleep. So let's get through this pretty quick. I want to talk about two people that really gained their entire popularity through apps like TikTok and fell off fucking hard. Number one, I want to talk about our lovely lady that we love to call the Hawk Girl, Haley Welch. What a piece of garbage human being. Let's talk about it. Haley Welch got famous because of one video, a street interview in which she basically described what a blowjob is. Bit on it. She got famous for that, and she capitalized, and good on her. Good marketing, fantastic. I mean, props to her. But when you have no substance and you have no real addition to society, which I believe is what Haley Welch is, you're going to see the true sides of the person at some. What we saw with Haley is it's pretty fucking sick. What happened if you are not aware? She created crypto. She had a team allegedly come help her out. We're gonna make this Hawk 2 a coin, whatever the fuck it's called. And we're gonna go and sell it to investors. As soon as this coin launched, she pulled the rug, completely sold out, made millions for herself and her team, and left everybody else out to dry. Now, nobody's heard or seen from her since. She basically half-ass acknowledged it on her Twitter, and then, again, hasn't been seen or heard from since. That being the case, for somebody acting like that, fall off, watching everything that has been built up. And again, this girl could have been set for life, and she probably still will be, but reputation destroyed, that's for sure. Had this thing running forever. She could have, this talk to a podcast could have just gone off the rails in a good way. And instead, her pulling the scheme and this crypto scheme completely destroyed her image, completely destroyed everybody's thoughts about her. And I'm sure if she were to come back in any sense online, she's just going to get dragged, and she should. She's a terrible person. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And to me, part of that kind of resembles what this society is starting to, you talk about like the American way of life. And people are, I think, thinking less and less that it is a place where you can come and put your work in. And if you put in hard work, you're going to get what's owed to you. People are thinking more and more that you need to get lucky one time, get famous one time, and get your money while you can. Get in and get out. It kind of resembles to me the changing image of what an American is. If that's the direction that we're heading, if these people are going to get more and more famous, these one-off people who get a street interview and all of a sudden go famous, you think of, I don't know if anybody remembers the guy, I think it was Kai the Hatchet Killer or something like that. You can go look it up. Super famous video. This guy is a pretty good example too. And this is before TikTok, before any of this crap. The guy got famous for a street interview. And what he did was, I don't know if it was ever the fact that he murdered someone, but he did bludgeon someone with an axe, threatened the man that he was in the car with when the incident happened. And again, you can go look back because I'm not remembering all the details, a little fuzzy right now, but it just kind of popped in my head here. It's like these types of people that get famous on a one-off, really go to show that it's not worth it, in my opinion. In my opinion, it's not worth it, especially in an age where it is so important to maintain a strong presence online, especially if you want to work online. Like, for example, for myself, wanting to put out a good image for you guys and wanting to show even the ups and the downs and the bad parts of my show. And all of this kind of accumulates to what people see you as. And if you're going to put up that one-time instance and try to make as much money as you can right now, not forecasting out into the future, well, not only is it short-sighted, but you're taking yourself away from the possibility of building a life for not only yourself, possibly your family in the future, and setting up for generational wealth, which to me, it's much more the American dream. Now, is the American dream what it is now? Is it what it was? Obviously, it's not. We can all say that it still exists, but let's be honest here. Something that I really want to do a lot of writing about is just the exponential rising cost of living. And for example, here in New Jersey, just over the past 7 years, I think that just rent alone, average rent has gone up somewhere in the ballpark of like 70 to 80% from pre-COVID to now. If you look at that time frame, who, if anybody, who is getting a pay increase of 70 to 80% to cover those costs? Nobody. So that tells me is called inflation, but realistically, more so the problem is the people who are running businesses taking advantage of the moment and getting way over leveraged, and our whole economy basically relying on that leverage and no longer relying on something being created, no longer relying on anything really concrete. It's all floating in the air and hoping again that you get that one off, you make a ton of money now, and you get enough that you can squirrel away and you don't have to worry about it. And that's not any sort of American dream. That's just my opinion, maybe, but it is not an American dream to try to catch a one-off. It's not an American dream to try to be as controversial as possible or try to get the hot take, try to nail that street interview and get enough people's eyes on it that you make a podcast and then pull a rug under someone in a crypto scam. No, it's just not an American dream at all. So let's talk a little bit further. I want to mention someone else who I think is very important to mention when you're talking about how our culture and our dynamics here in America are changing, and that's Bobby Altoff. If you haven't heard of Bobby Altoff, I guess there is some people who haven't. Bobby Altoff is another really degenerate human being. This girl had a life, a husband, kids, and decided to essentially throw that away. What she did was, the big famous one was interviewing Drake, but she interviewed a bunch of famous people, got on all this podcast and stuff, and what she got famous for was this placid, really unmoving demeanor, which I don't understand at all. But anyway, got famous. Tons of people started liking up her stuff. And so she decided to spend more and more time with really just bad people, surrounding herself with bad people, putting herself in the likes of rappers, football players, singers, all sorts of famous people because her platform allowed it. And I don't know why the exact reason is that her fall off, quote unquote, happened. She still has tons of followers and still engages and stuff. So it's not like the same situation as our talk to a lady. Sentiment's kind of the same. Short sighted, took advantage of a lot of in the moment offers and changed herself, removed herself from her family. Her husband wanted to divorce her. I believe it's finalized at this point. I could be wrong. It's really ruining the life that had been created for her in order to chase this goal of being famous and being something else. And kind of you take a step back and you want to recognize how poor of a decision that is in terms of probably her mental health for sure took a hit, but also think about the family. Yeah, the husband got to be broken, but I think the kids, whatever image they had of their mother's gone. Now it is this famous woman who has no time for them and for no reason. She didn't do anything to deserve this fate. And you look at it, again, I want to pull back to our American culture and how we're changing. To me, it sets a pretty bad precedent. You're going to set the precedent for our next and up and coming generations that your best bet in order to get famous is to catch that one off, be controversial in a moment, not put any effort into creating anything or building anything for anybody or even for yourself, for your family. Instead, what you're going to be looking for is that one opportunity where somebody gets the right view on your podcast, somebody gets the right view on your YouTube video, somebody sees your street interview, and you're trying to capitalize, get whatever agent you can, get whatever marketing you can, and just spam it. And it's one of the reasons that I don't really chase advertisers on the show because I don't really want them. I don't want someone to be controlling the narrative that I want to put out. And my narrative right here is that TikTok sucks. Social media in general sucks. And if you're one of those people that can't really decipher the difference between real life and online, or maybe your life is being made online, like this is a huge argument for TikTok not being banned, is that so many people make their livelihoods on TikTok. Well, maybe you should recognize that that's not that good. It's really not that good. People putting out information, like look at somebody like a Dan Carlin, Martyr Made podcast, Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's maybe a different example, but the only reason he got paid is because he's famous enough that he made a deal with Spotify. You look at someone like Dan Carlin, self-supported. You look at someone like Martyr Made, the only way the guy receives money is directly through subscriptions to his own platform. And so they built, yeah, their online presence is basically the only way they make money. However, their online presence is providing value to many, many people. We look at the Dan Carlin, for example. One of my favorite, all-time favorite things that the man's ever put out, he put out a lot of good stuff, is his series on Genghis Khan in particular and his family and his lineage that passed down. And what does that do for people? You know, you might say, oh, this is the equivalent. This is like the male version of a TikToker. And I would say you're wrong. Something like The Wrath of the Khans, which is the name of the series that I'm referencing. What it does for people is provides them a piece of history that they may never have the chance to come across at all, right? Unless you're going to go sift through a bunch of Mongolian sources, or you're going to go find extremely expensive books that may or may not lead you to conclusions, or maybe you can't even decipher what they're trying to say. Dan Carlin puts out this information, and it is a wealth of knowledge to understand how somebody like Genghis Khan can pull together basically tribes of people who are not necessarily like him, but from the same area, may have some similarities, definitely got some differences, pull them together into an empire and use it to maul everybody that came with him or his armies, understanding the just savagery. And I don't mean that in a negative sense per se, although I do. The ability that someone like that had in order to change the world. You look at numbers now, I think there's something like, I don't know, some high percentage. I don't want to just take a random guess. I want to say like 7 to 11% of all descendants of Asians. I could be totally wrong. can trace their lineage back to Genghis Khan. That is insane to think about. Now, is that coming in a good way? No, you're talking about a man who raped plenty of women. And I think if you go look at the history of the Mongols, you could see many times where they're saying Genghis Khan took this woman as his wife. And what they're meaning by that is it was a forced sexual encounter. However, the amount that the man changed the world is undeniable. And a lot of us wouldn't have any idea. I don't know if you guys are all fans of Dan Carlin like I am. A lot of us wouldn't have any idea that impact that Genghis Khan had unless it was for a show like his. And that's a value added to the work. Then you go talk to someone like, or talk about, I should say, someone like Haley Will, Bobby Alton. What kind of value are they adding? To me, it's a negative value. You were teaching people that you can make money off of really not doing shit, not providing any sort of value, right? Now, I hope you guys see a difference. What we try to do in our show here is give you guys information that you may not find anywhere. So, you know what? Try to be my own version of a Joe Rogan, of a Dan Carlin, of a Martyr Made podcast. Love pulling examples from all over the place, and I love listening to podcasts because they're very informative. I try to be that for you guys, or at least give you guys a sample of what I listen to that I think is great. What I hear from them is pure garbage. It's very narcissistic, especially in talking in terms of money earning. And God forbid, we're not going to talk about this today, but think about the OnlyFans and how much that has pervaded into society and really ruined people. Talk about the females, but realistically, talk about the men who support that. It's destroying our fabric of society. I have to say, and take a little bit of a step back and recognize that things like TikTok, things like Instagram Reels, things like OnlyFans, these massive platforms do not have the best interest of us as Americans or even people, and really see us as a number and a dollar sign. If you can't realize that, if you can't recognize that, and realize that we're spending way too much time in these apps, we're devoting way too much of our lives to these apps, maybe you are part of the problem. And I think another part of our issue here in America, and I'll end on this, is that there's a lot of times where if you are struggling as an individual, you're not struggling because of outside forces. Now, a lot of times you are. There's a lot of instances and a lot of anecdotal evidence that, you have someone who is your abuser. You have someone who has a financial stranglehold on an abusive relationship with your parents or your partner. All of these things could be true. But how many times has someone put themselves into either financial ruin or ruined their lives, family, made themselves the outcast? And it is 100% they're doing. I think it's a significant amount, and it is definitely the majority, 100%. If you are unwilling to recognize that you might be the source of your own problems, that probably isn't even the show for you, and I can't believe that you made it this far. But if you did, odds are you could take some criticism, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing to be able to understand that you might be a part of what the problem in society is. So get back to a place, let's be able to criticize everybody. We now have a Trump presidency. Trump has been inaugurated as of today that I'm recording this. This will be out tomorrow. You guys can all listen to it. Let me know what you think. But let's not let it slide. Yeah, he got a mandate from the people, you could say, and he got a hell of a lot of votes. That does not mean that he goes without criticism. And I'm going to criticize the hell out of him for this. TikTok is not the move. It's not the app that you want to save. A lot of good developers here in America that take care of the job better. Do not put the American people or the American experience, America in general, at a place of disadvantage. They actually want America to win. They want to win through America. Support those people. Support those apps. That's all I got for you today. Sal Sante, We the Patriots podcast. Hope you have a great week and a great 2025. Get right into it. Let's move forward. Talk to you guys next week.
I want to be something, not nothing. Trapped inside my dream and I'm running away from these demons. But the feeling's so good, I'ma keep dreaming.